Alright guys, so the big talk of the town in horology is still GPHG. That's still going on, and I think it's very important because this is where all the high-end watchmakers showcase their most innovative, beautiful designs, and then the overlords over at GPHG say, yes, you are a winner, or no, you go home empty-handed. And I have my own opinions. Okay, last week here on this channel, I picked my favorites out of the finalists for this year, 2025 GPHG. And then actually, over on the Wolf Watch Club YouTube channel, I went over every single entry for GPHG this year. All the nominees. It took me damn near an hour. So go over to the Wolf Watch Club YouTube channel. I'm going to link it below. It's youtube.com/Wolf Watch Club, and watch that video because it took me, guys, it's 55 minutes long. So get a snack, sit back, and enjoy. But today, we're not going to be going over every entry. We're going to be going over who I think the losers are. Okay, so I picked my favorites. Now it's time for me to pick my least favorites. Because after all, if there's winners, there's got to be some losers. It is 3:20 p.m. Let's get down to business. Real quick, we just did a restock over at the Time Teller shop, and yeah, these aren't going to last long because there's one watch I can see right here that I think is probably going to disappear by the time I finish recording right now. So click the link in the description below and shop. All right, so we see all of these watches, and again, over at the Wolf Watch Club channel, I went over every single nominee here. Now, I've also mentioned a few times that there are a bunch of watches I really do like out of these contestants, but there's also a bunch of watches I really don't like. The first one being this, the Gerald Genta Gentissima Arceau Fire Opal. Now, this is a watch that I've done a specific review on here at the Time Teller channel, and guys, this looks like the COVID-19 virus. Like, you know, everyone has their own beliefs. That whole pandemic was very politicized on all sides. All I'm saying is, I think you need a vaccine for this watch because this might actually get you sick and potentially kill you. These look like pustules. It is disgusting. I think the case back, specifically this jumbo rotor, I think it's beautiful, but you know, there's a lot of good that Gerald Genta did for horology, okay? I don't think horology would be what it is now without Genta and the watches that he designed. But I hate the font that the Gerald Genta watches use for the signage, and I absolutely hate this watch. It doesn't look like it would be comfortable to wear, both physically and mentally. I feel like you'd look at it and it would just make you feel incredibly uncomfortable. I hate it. I hate it so much. So, and they have a black version, by the way. This isn't the Fire Opal. This one here's the Fire Opal. They have a black version of the Gentissima, and I feel like that is much more palatable than this. Okay, moving on. This one isn't as offensive for like the same reason. This is from Tiffany & Co. Bird on a Rock, and this, you know, they call it how they sees it. It's a bird on a rock. I wonder how the pitch went when it came to designing this watch. Like, Tiffany & Co. were like, okay, there's a ton of people coming out with Tiffany blue watches, but the fad is kind of over. There's some ugly, ethnically ambiguous dude called the Time Teller online, and he's saying that the Tiffany blue fad is done. How can we maintain relevance in the space? And someone in the back was like, hey boss, I got an idea. Bird on a rock. And then they're like, what do you mean, son? And he's like, all right, you take a bird and we put it on a rock, and then they just did it. It's ugly, dude. Talk about an offset time telling display. There's not even like a dial around it. They just put a bird on a massive stone, bedazzled the whole damn thing, and then there's just two hands here. The case back isn't even pretty. Okay, so moving on to Hermes. Now, Hermes is seen as a very high-end fashion company, known for their leather goods and stuff. And You know, I defend Hermes when it comes to watchmaking because I think that they put out a lot of really, really cool, innovative watches, like watches I would wear. This is on today's list because this is the antithesis of that. In fact, this is what I think most people would expect Hermes to put out when it comes to one of their watches. When you think Hermes, you don't think watch. You do think this kind of watch, though. And this is just kind of a very safe, easy fashion watch. It's not impressive. You know what this reminds me of? Not only because there's a horse here, this reminds me of the Ralph Lauren watches, right? People think that they're just garbage. It's like Ralph Lauren, Polo, big deal. No, there are some actual legit, very cool Ralph Lauren watches with very impressive JLC movements in them. But then they also come out with garbage like this, where it's just like it's stupid. And yeah, this does have an automatic movement, but this is 159,000 Swiss francs. Why would you spend that for this watch? I'm not seeing it. So it's like, I love horses. I actually really do like Hermes watches in general, but this is just stupid. And for that amount of money, it's insane. Moving on to another watchmaker, I really like Chris Ward. See, guys, just because I like the brand doesn't mean I like everything they put out. C1 Celestial Moon Phase, Mr. Jones watches collaboration. I think they were going for something artsy fartsy, out of the box, cartoony, comic booky. I don't see the appeal here. Let me put it this way. There's a lot of, I think the majority of Chris Ward watches I would wear. This I would not wear, regardless of the brand. I think that this is silly, and how do you even tell time? Like, do these little like bird things move around, and is that how you tell? I don't know, but it's ugly. And this is 2,400 Swiss francs. I would never spend that on this watch. But there are other watches from Chris Ward that I absolutely would spend that money on. Van Cleef Arpels. This is a literal jeweler, okay? And it's a very unimpressive watch. I get it. They assume a woman is going to be wearing this, and they assume that because a woman's going to be wearing this, all they need to do is put a bunch of gemstones on it. And I think that that's actually what is wrong with the watch world. Because if I may put my hat in the ring here, some girls just want like cool watches that are maybe undersized and easy to wear. You don't need to make every woman's watch just a bedazzled piece of garbage and say, well, that's what ladies want, because I think a lot of chicks that are interested in watches want watches that are just cool watches, but maybe are a bit easier for them to have on their wrist. But I get it, like the woman's space, even when we look at market research, I think that the last number that I could see is that women make up 30% of watch purchases, which is a huge number. That's way huger than I would have ever thought. But then you go deeper in the information, you realize that these women are also buying watches for spouses, significant others, men in their life. And so then you realize that it is probably a much smaller percentage of watch purchases actually coming from women for themselves. So I get it. Most watchmakers, most brands aren't going to spend a ton of money making a ton of watches for women. But this is a perfect example of an ugly watch for women. Okay, I think of Sammy, right? I think of my I think of my life. I meant to say I think of my wife, and I think of the watches that she would be interested in, and this wouldn't be that. But you know, whatever. So those are, let's see, we went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 watches that I think are the worst of the worst for this competition this year. And to be honest, that's pretty damn good. That means the majority of the watches, the vast majority of the watches this year, I think we're pretty cool. And if you want to see me go over every single one, go to the Wolf Watch Club YouTube channel, because again, it's a long video. It took me 55, and that's edited. That is edited. It took me 55 minutes edited, which is crazy. All right, guys. But again, restock over at the shop. Click the links in the description below, shop around, check out Wolf Watch Club, and actually they're doing a little winner's choice this week, which is insane. To learn more, go to wolfwatchclub.com. I will link it in the description below. I will see you next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. And always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.